First of all, I'd like to say welcome, because we come from the four corners of the United States. A lot of snowbirds are down here because of our beautiful weather.
Yes.
And you've come to a bastion of charity. We are not only family-centered people and aspiring businessmen, very successful businessmen, a lot of professionals. We have a lot of men in the military and women, and we have missionaries all over the world. We were very upset when Obama wanted to tax charities. Yeah. And now we're only allowed to have 2 functions a year that we can use as a tax deduction. And I have 2 questions. The first one is, what will you do about that attack on charity, which is what is the center core of our Christian life, our expression of Christ? And number 2, I found it mildly amusing to see a billionaire demanding of a millionaire to show how he got his money and what he did at Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae. And so we know the most important thing is to beat Obama, and we need a strong showing in the Senate to take over the Senate and in large numbers, and we need it in the House. Unfortunately, I think the other 2 will just squeak in, and we may lose the House and the Senate. We want somebody to represent us that will reach across lines. I think you are that man. But what will you do to increase your coattails? How many people will you go out and help get elected to the House and the Senate?
Thank you. Okay, there's 2 questions. I'll try to handle them both. Number 1, I'm a great believer in bottom-up, as you heard me say before. I wrote a book in response to Hillary Clinton's book that she wrote back in the 90s called It Takes a Village. Well, I wrote the response to that called It Takes a Family. And in that book, I talk about the assault of the left, now the assault of Barack Obama, on the 2 institutions that stand in the way of the progressives in America from orienting in the entire society from the top down. And the 2 institutions left to fight the bigs. Big business, big labor, big government, big Hollywood, big media. The folks that want to tell you how to live your lives, inculcate their values into you. The 2 institutions left to fight them because we've lost, unfortunately, our entertainment industry. We've lost our higher education. That was the first to go a long time ago. It's no wonder President Obama wants every kid to go to college. The indoctrination that occurs in American universities is one of the keys to the left holding and maintaining power in America. And it is indoctrination. If it was the other way around, the ACLU would be out there making sure that there wasn't 1 penny of government dollars going to colleges and universities, right? If they taught Judeo-Christian principles in those colleges and universities, they would be stripped of every dollar. If they teach radical secular ideology, they get all the government support that they can possibly get. As you know, 62% of children who enter college with a faith conviction leave without it. And I bet you there are people in this room who give money to colleges and universities who are undermining the very principles of our country every single day by indoctrinating kids in left-wing ideology. And you continue to give to these colleges and universities. Let me have a suggestion. Stop it. And so what I talked about is in this book is that you have these array of big organizations who are trying to get at the 2 institutions that stop them from having the control in America. And that's the family and the church. That's what's left. And so what do you see as the principal assault in this country from Barack Obama? Charities, the church. Look at what the president just did just last week in Obamacare regulations to the Catholic Church. It said that now Catholic institutions that don't believe in abortion or providing contraceptive because it's against the teachings of that church, according to the Obama administration, too bad. You are, as a church, you must provide abortifacients as part of your health care plan. As a church, you're going to have to do that. They'll give you 1 year to adjust. But what they say is, look, their values trump your religious values. The government can tell you They're going to starve you by taking money away, by taking out the charitable deductions. They're going to weaken you by passing statutes to change the institution of marriage, which will ultimately make what is preached here hate speech and bigotry. They are constant assaults on religious liberty, constant assaults on the family, because they hate competition. And they don't want to have to compete with these institutions anymore. They know best how to run your life. And they have the power. They have the power to be able to impose that, unless we take them out of power, and that's what this election is about.
Hi, Senator Santorum. As a young person, two of the biggest issues for us are jobs and the debt. I'm wondering, under a Santorum administration, what would you do to help create an environment in where young people can get their foot in the door and be able to get jobs and not have to spend our entire life paying off this huge national debt?
Well, I mean, I talked a lot about our jobs plan, and you know, I can talk a little bit more about it, but let me just focus in, because I think part of the issues with the debt is a problem with creating jobs. I mean, first and foremost, I mentioned before, Obamacare is going to cost hundreds of billions, trillions of dollars. Repealing Obamacare, getting that program off the books will create a tremendous uplift in this country of employment opportunities. There's no doubt about it. So that is important, but it's also important for reducing the deficit. I put together plans on reforming entitlements, everything, every entitlement. 72 means-tested entitlement programs in Washington, D.C., 72. Everything from food stamps and Medicaid, which you may be familiar with, to school lunch programs and a whole host of other things. Why is the federal government involved? Why is the federal government involved in these things? Now, there may have been a time in our country's history where we couldn't trust the states to do what's in the best interest of their people. I don't think anybody believes that particular states don't care about their constituents as much as Washington, D.C. does. And that, in fact, the values of the people in those states are more reflected by what happens in that state than what happens in Washington, D.C. So why do we have this concentration of all of these programs in Washington, D.C., when the vast majority of them are actually administered by the states? But we feel like we have to be the nanny state over the states, but over the states as to how they operate their programs. I have two words: stop it. We're going to stop it. We're going to take those programs, we're going to phase out, completely eliminate some of them, and give the states the responsibility to be able to do this if they want to. And the others, we will block grant, we will cut them, we will cap them, we will freeze them, and we will give them the states with the flexibility to do what they need to do in their states to take care of people in need in their society. So if you're looking at the final point I would make, and this is a passion of mine, this is something I advocated and fought for when I was in the Congress, and that's the balanced budget amendment to the Constitution. And passing a balanced budget amendment that limits the size of the federal government to 18% of GDP. If you want to do one thing, if we want to do one thing that will guarantee freedom for the next generation, we pass a constitutional amendment to balance the budget. I mean, every year we have to balance. And we cannot spend more than 18 cents out of every dollar that's spent in our economy in the federal government. You will guarantee freedom. You will guarantee freedom. Why? Because you'll guarantee limited government. If you guarantee limited government, people will be free. That's what America was built upon.